Back again with another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you for joining us here on a Tuesday night. We're live, 9:30 p.m. is when we stream. If you're catching us via the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation. Got folks lining up in the chat room as we speak. A lot to cover. We've got contract extensions to talk about. Trey Smith, George Karlaftis. We'll talk about some of the comments they had today. Josh Simmons shining at least as much as you can shine. He's at least in camp, taking full participation before they put the pads on. The Rashee Rice criminal case is settled. We'll talk about what's next there. Kristian Fulton will start on the pup list. Mahomes, Reed talking training camp. It's all going on right now as they're off and running in St. Joe. We're off and running right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it as we get things rolling here on a Tuesday night. And, gentlemen, let's begin with the contract extensions. Let's start with the most recent first, Jeff. George Karlaftis. I've had a wide range of reactions on this one from, number one, seems like a lot of money for a guy who hasn't had that big breakout season yet, who's been good but not great. But other people are saying, this is an absolute steal. You got to be kidding me. $17.5 million, what ends up being basically 6 years of team control at about $105 million. That's great, especially in a couple of years. This is going to look like an absolute bargain. Where do you sit on what the Chiefs were able to accomplish in the George Karlaftis contract?
I'm in the middle. I think it's a good deal for both sides. I know that's not what people want to hear, but it feels like for the Chiefs, you got a player you trust that you know who has been reliable for you. Yeah, he's not Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, but he has been an effective player, and you got him at a cheap cost. And George Karlaftis clearly wanted to be here, has not much interest in trying to get up into the – I thought a deal like this, to be honest with you, would be closer to $30 million a year just because the market for edge rushers is so crazy right now. And Micah Parsons still is yet to sign, so it's going to get even crazier. And he's starting this process. So he had time to figure out what he wanted to do. And if he had a big year, he probably could have got more money. But it just shows you that he wanted to be here. They were happy with him. And I think it's a sensible deal for both sides. I don't think it's a steal because, again, I don't think he's a Pro Bowl caliber player, but I don't think it's a waste of money either because look at what edge rushers get today.
What do you think, Sam? The Karlaftis deal, one side win over the other?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm surprised that one side signed this deal, I'm more surprised that George Karlaftis signed this deal than I am the Chiefs. I mean, you don't find A-plus deals in free agency. You find reasonable deals occasionally, and I think the Chiefs found a really reasonable deal. George Karlaftis has played his best football over the last 3 years was his last 7 games of last year, playoffs included. I think I mentioned this stat on this podcast once, but only once in the first 12 weeks last year did he top 10% pressure rate. He did it in all 7 games afterwards. From weeks 14 to 17, he led the NFL in pressures over a 4-week stretch. And so it surprises me a little bit that he didn't want to see if he could prove capable of doing that over the course of a full season. Because if he did, his contract looks nothing like the one he just signed. because it doesn't start for 2 years. So I don't know if he'll be in the top 20 of paid edge rushers by the time that this deal actually starts. And he definitely won't by year 6 of this deal, because it's 4 years tacked onto the 2 existing. I think when you sign early as a team and a player, you're eliminating worst case and best case scenario and settling for somewhere in the middle. And the Chiefs here, I think, got a player who potentially could get up. Like he could increase that best case scenario, maybe more likely than the worst case, because I think he has a high floor. And so I think the Chiefs did pretty well here.
So let me ask you a question. We're talking about 6 years and it doesn't start for 2 years. Is Micah Parsons under contract right now?
Yeah,
but he's not practicing, right? Is Trey Hendrickson under contract right now? Yeah, but he's not practicing, right? And everybody expects deals to ultimately get done with them. Certainly with Micah Parsons. We know Jerry Jones will cave whenever he thinks he actually needs Micah Parsons in to be ready for the season. This is just Jerry, hogging up the limelight. My point to that is, yes, we look at it. I think we have to understand that the contract isn't as long. They're not as long as they look. Either direction. Now, this goes 2 ways usually, right? We always know that every deal, and now all the contract websites, give a thing like out after this many years. Basically, whenever you become cheaper to cut than keep, it's possible for the team to walk away from you. And if you're a player, it's an accepted norm now. You've got a year left, you hold out, and you get, a new deal if you're worth it. Like I've always said, the people that show up to camp are the people that are worried they might get cut. There's no shot you're going to get cut. Then, you miss a little time, So yes and no. I think everything. I agree with everything you've said. I would just add the layer. I agree with everything that both of you said. I would just add the layer that I do think it is grabbing a bunch of guaranteed money right now before you ever actually start putting the pads on this year. So any ACL, any injury of any kind, he now has $62 million guaranteed. And he was going to have, 5 and change this year. Once, if he got hurt, it would have basically been guaranteed. That's how those contracts work. And then the 5th year is really hard to get out from under, even if there's an injury, right? My understanding, I haven't dug real deep into it, but pretty much once you pick up that 5th year, you really can't get out from paying him. And so he went from about 20 million, 25 million. I have to look. I can't remember what the 5th year number was for him, to 62 million. And then the way the contract's worded is basically 95. And I think it is of note, there's no real signing bonus to this, right? It's not a big thing, but it is about 95 million guaranteed, practical guarantee, 62 against injury, another 32 and change, maybe it's 62 and change. And then about 32 against, like, basically if he's on the roster, he's going to, it guarantees, right? And so I think it is a matter of guaranteed money, but there is still the opportunity to pull the plug on that a year early. And by doing this at age 24, he's back on the market at 29. He's not going to get a 6-year deal. And this one really isn't, as you pointed out, Sam. It's 4 after 2 years. But he's going to get another bite at the apple when he's still playing at a high level. We just watched 31-year-old TJ Watt, get 3 years at 41 million per. I think, is Myles Garrett even a year older? At 32, Danielle Hunter's 30. So he will be back out there as a free agent where he has
I think Myles Garrett's younger.
Is Myles Garrett younger? I'll look it up while we're talking. But Danielle Hunter, I know, is 30. So he'll be back out there at that age. So he is in kind of a unique situation because of just how young he is. He's 24 years old right now. Like, he's going to play this year at 24. And he's already got 3 years under his belt. So I do agree. I think Sam put it great. You take out the top end and the bottom end when you do a deal like this. And I think it does speak to that Kansas City's a place people want to play, right, Jeff? I mean, like, where else would you want to go? Is it really great?
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Well, I think that's all depends on the person. I think for George Karlaftis, I don't know his background. Sometimes look at a guy who comes from a much more humble background or a destitute background, and money means a lot more. And so he might not be in that position. I mean, I think he likes being in Kansas City. I think the same is true of a Nick Bolton. And I think Sam's right. I think that he had more leverage just beyond the marketplace, that you put him and McDuffie and Rashee Rice in the same boat, that they're all trending towards having their contracts expire at the same time. Not everybody's going to be franchised in that situation. And so he could have played it to the hilt and walked out and said, okay, well, if you have franchise McDuffie or Rashee Rice, I'm out the door. And he's going to get a ton of money, way more money than he got here. I would dispute the notion that at 29, he's going to have another bite at the apple. That apple might be really small by that point. It may be rotten to the core, and he may be he's in that category of a Greg Rousseau, a Leonard Floyd, a Dante Fowler, second, third tier pass rusher.
I'm not saying he's going to reset the market, but he'll get a contract.
Yeah,
and
but I'm
saying,
saying,
by the way, Myles Garrett is 29. 29 in 200 days. So he'll turn 30 this season.
Now, I'm just saying that 24 right now, or 25 when he would have been out, or 26, that's his peak years to make the most money. So, yeah, he'll get another bite, but the money he'll get in that next contract with what he's making now still won't compare to what he could have got with a couple double-digit sack seasons walking out the door.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on, the Greg Rousseau comparison. I think is the best one. And George Karlaftis got paid a little bit more, but it's a year earlier. Yeah. And so, when that contract starts a year later, he's going to come in under Rousseau. And like I said, I really thought last year, if you would have asked me this question middle of the year, what's George Karlaftis' floor and what's his ceiling, I would have said, I think we've seen them both. I think he's always going to be like a 6 to 7 sack player at minimum, but I thought we also had probably seen a ceiling. Those last 7 games perhaps proved me wrong on that. I'd like to see what he does over the course of a full year, but it looked like there was another gear there that I really didn't anticipate, because I think he's long been known as this effort player, this relentless player who gets his sacks based on not giving up. And he was getting quick pressures in those games. And there's a real difference in getting to the quarterback in under 3 seconds versus just getting to the quarterback at all. And he showed that difference. I mean, he was the best player on the field in that Houston playoff game. His pressure rate was 25% in that game. I mean, he was a beast in that game. A bad offensive line, but still, he showed up in that game in a way that it at least has me rethinking that maybe there is something else there.
Yeah, I think that was my next question: is what more can he be, and what will make this contract an extension? I do think at 24 there's more there. I think there are limits to how bendy he is about turning the corner and stuff, but I still think there's a lot of the hand fighting and maybe a spin move. I mean, I think there's an element to pass rushers with the knowledge, and while he's at his peak athleticism, that to learn a new tool. I mean, Tamba Hali picked things up along the way and got better. Tamba Hali's always been the guy that I compared George Karlaftis to, and I still think it's a pretty good one, because I don't think Tamba Hali was real bendy either, but he was relentless, and he worked on some different techniques, setting guys up, setting them up, with a first step that makes it look like you're going to try to beat them on the edge and then turn in and get the helmet on the chest and bull rush him and knock him back into the quarterback. I think he's got some of those traits. I do think there's some more ceiling. I also think everybody gets that year where, just a high percentage of your pressures turn into sacks, where just the quarterback just gets flushed right into your arms. He'll have probably another big season. I do think largely, though, Sam is right. I don't know. I was watching some of the Trey Hendrickson highlights today when they were talking about him leaving camp and everything. And I was trying to look and see, was there a Jared Allen, hold the tackle off and turn the corner with the legs there, or a Derek Thomas just roar off the edge? And a lot of them seemed, real kind of just crafty veteran, a combination of strength and different moves, getting the tackle off balance and not just raw athleticism. So I don't know. I give it the ability that there is a little bit more upside to Karlaftis, and maybe, I thought the 8 to 10 looked like his neighborhood. I think there might be a little more than that, a little 10-ish plus, but I don't know. What do you think the upside is, Jeff? I mean, how much more ceiling is there?
I think he's about where he's going to be for his career. I don't see some huge spurt like Trey Hendrickson had. He may have a year where he gets 11, 12 sacks, but I think for the most part, I think he's who he is, which is why I think the deal is a good deal for him and the Chiefs. You asked what makes it a success. For me, it's a success if 3-4 years down the road, he's not bitching about his contract and pulling a Trey Hendrickson and saying, I need more money. And so that's the thing. That's the part that goes unspoken, is that, when you're 24 and you want to be someplace, it's great. But then, like Sam said, when you're the 50th highest paid edge rusher and you're putting up good numbers, then it's a problem. So I think that if he stays who he is, then it's a good deal. If it becomes the flip side of this is Frank Clark, right? which I think is a lot like George Karlaftis, and they paid way too much money, and over the years people got frustrated with him. I think because he's taking less money, he'll be more appreciated for what he does.
By the way,
if
for the
he
record,
if he bitches in 4 years for a new contract, that means it's a success.
yes, yes, I would agree with that. Karlaftis is 24. He won't turn 25 till next April, so he will play this entire year. Just for the record, Max Crosby, who reset the market first this year at $35.5 million, will turn 28 on August 22nd. Myles Garrett will turn 30 on December 29th. Danielle Hunter will turn 30 on October 29th. So actually, Danielle Hunter's, he's older. And then TJ Watt is going to turn 31 in October. And so those are the deals. And each one went 35.5, 35.6, 40, and 41. Those guys, Aiden Hutchinson's contract's looming over the horizon. He's the odds-on favorite to lead in sacks. And that's going to totally reset that market, as Sam was talking about, as are a number of other guys. So it is. I'm with you. And I do think, like, if he is ready to hold out, the Chiefs agree that he's outplayed the contract, then he'll be 28 when he's talking about an extension.
Well, and compare that to just today's draft and the way today's draft works. You've got 6 guys and they got drafted this year who are going to play their age 25 seasons this year.
Yeah.
And Karlaftis is playing his age 24 season this year. That's one of the reasons that he's signing this deal. It's another reason why I think the Chiefs made out pretty well here.
Tell me, what does this mean then for a Trent McDuffie? Sam, I mean, where do you think this? Because they came into the same draft class, both of them first rounders, both of them had the 5th-year option picked up. What is this? Is this good, bad sign for Trent McDuffie?
I really think what the Chiefs have proven over this past offseason in particular is they feel like it's hard to collect talent, as particularly when you draft 31st and 32nd, particularly when you don't have a ton of salary cap room, because you do sign Nick Bolton, you do sign Trey Smith. It's the reason that I've really critiqued those deals. I think they've said it's tough to acquire talent. We better keep the talent we have. And so I think if you're any player with the Chiefs and you're in that upper echelon at your position, that the Chiefs are going to make every effort to make a deal. What we're seeing with the George Karlaftis deal is that the player was willing. I don't know that the player here is willing to sign that kind of deal that doesn't kick in for 2 years, because I think Trent McDuffie thinks that, he can get paid top of market if he hits the free agency. Because let's face it, whatever you think of where Trent McDuffie ranks, and the NFL executives put him at top 5, whatever you think of that ranking, if he enters free agency as a cornerback, he'll be the best cornerback on the market that year.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Sam's right. It's the thing about this deal being done with Karlaftis is it gives Trent McDuffie's agent a reason to sit down and have a conversation with him and say, we're not doing that. Just so you know, don't even think about doing it. I know you like being here. We're not taking a discount. Look at the numbers over here, what Sauce Gardner got, what Stingley got, what J.C. Horns got. That's what we need to look at. That's where we're going here. And if we need to fight for it, we're going to get it because you deserve it. And so I think that is it's a different conversation. I mean, Trent McDuffie's got the all pros. As you know, Sam's right. The market is better for him. He's a more accomplished player. He's a more appreciated player. I think that I don't know if he's going to be willing to sit down here and say, "Oh, I'm taking $20 million a year to stay with the Chiefs."
And don't you recall, like this off season, the Nick Bolton? A lot of the rationale for keeping Nick Bolton is Steve Spagnuolo believing I can't do everything defensively I want to do if that guy's not my linebacker. There's a lot of that with Trent McDuffie too. I mean, they move him around a lot, and they move him. If you watch film, they move him mid-play. They'll have him lined up in press coverage, and suddenly he'll drop back to safety mid-play on some things. He is just such a cerebral player and just a really intelligent within the exact scheme that Steve Spagnuolo wants to play. I could see that working to Trent McDuffie's advantage as well.
The top 10s at each position Jeremy Fowler does each year on ESPN. At the cornerback position, I ran this by Sam today. The 10 players, 8 of the 10 are 25 or younger at corner, right? One is 26, and one, Jalen Johnson with the Bears, and one is 28, Ward with the Browns. So does that say that you shouldn't be signing anybody? I mean, should we start admitting cornerback? It's not really linebacker as much as it's cornerback, or maybe it's both. But cornerback is a young man's game, and the second contracts are throwaways. Jeff, I mean, if like every year, like the top guys are all the guys that are on their rookie contracts, and then as soon as you give everybody money, they're falling down the list because it just is a pure quick twitch position. Like, is the moral of the story like, yeah, McDuffie doesn't want to sign? Fine. Keep it going. If he plays a great fourth year, he's going to want to hold out. So then you just trade him. If he doesn't hold out, great. He plays his fifth year and you let him go to free agency, take the compensation. Like what's,
there's value there. I mean, that's why they're getting drafted so high and why they're getting paid so much, because it's been a passing league for a long time. But having to match up with the variety of receivers you see nowadays and having corners who can do that. The one thing that hurts McDuffie is always going to be his size. It's just he's not tall enough. He's not a tall corner, which is why some people like Sauce better. Some people like J.C. Horn better when he's healthy. But he's definitely proven to be a really good corner. And when you have someone like that, you don't want to let them go. Now, the Chiefs have a history of not signing corners, not paying him a lot of money. They let Jarius Sneed go. But that he was, had a knee injury and all this other stuff. But
Charvarius Ward before him too, Jeff.
Exactly. So that to me is kind of what I'm looking at is, are they willing to go down this road with him to the point where they are in that $30 million a year territory, or even 28, 29 million? Because I don't know if they have a stomach for that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, let's get into Trey Smith. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, Trey Smith extension. Jeff, this one, top of the food chain, highest paid guard in football. Great listening to him talk about what it meant to his family and the promise he made to his mom about getting to the NFL today, and he was very emotional today at camp talking about it. It's a great story. He's been a great player for the Chiefs. The question that everyone have on their mind is paying top of the food chain money to a guard. They certainly did it. They locked up a guy who they like a lot. Did they get it right on this one?
Yeah. I mean, again, Sam mentioned it before, but this is the way the NFL is going. If you're trying to look into free agency to find answers to, whatever ails your team, it's going to be a lot harder moving forward because so many teams are so good at signing their own players back. And I think we all sat here last year at this time and thought about what happens to Nick Bolton, what happens to Trey Smith, and to have them both be here is surprising. But for the Chiefs, you love it. And so, again, this was a guy who wanted to be here and wanted to be paid at the top of the market. So he got a lot better than George Karlaftis did. But I think that it makes sense because, one, you want to protect Mahomes. That's always going to be their priority. And I think they do have a blind spot when it comes to that. They will justify these kind of contracts to make sure that 15 is going to be upright as much as possible. And so I understand it. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, I'm surprised that it got so much suspense attached to it because it seemed like everything about it was pointing towards what we saw happen.
They did take it right up to the deadline. I think that's, seemed like both sides wanted to make a deal, whether it's just how his agency operates. But they at least got to the last day. We didn't come down to the final minutes, but it got to the last day. Sam, did one side get the better of it in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you could say anything other than Trey Smith got the better end of this deal. I mean, he's the highest paid player at his position. The Chiefs have to pay a non-premium position at the top of the food chain. Two of them. I mean, it's center and right guard. You are paying league top money. This is, I mentioned with Karlaftis, you eliminate the best and worst case scenario when you sign a player early. When you don't, you keep all the variance in play. And when Trey Smith has another really good year, you end up paying a good player like he's the very best player at his position, because he might not have technically hit free agency, but that's what this was. It's just that you had exclusive negotiating rights with the player within that free agency type of window, but you've got to pay him like he's a free agent, because he basically is going to hit free agency otherwise. And then you fear of letting a player walk out the door with absolutely nothing to show for it, which is basically the worst thing that professional sports franchises do. So is it better than leaving him on the franchise tag for the Chiefs? Yes, I do believe they're in a better spot there than if they had just tagged him. But this is what happens when guys get to free agency and suddenly, like I said, the variance is in play. And here the variance totally worked in Trey Smith's favor.
Yeah, when you're the highest paid at any position, you've done pretty well, right? And now to do it when you just had Creed Humphrey sign and you turn right around and get it. I mean, I think as this contract certainly speaks to how much they value Trey Smith, but it also speaks to we're going to keep 15 happy, right? Yeah. Like, and this has got to make him happy, right?
I totally agree with that. And look, that was a lot of the sentiment after he signed too, was that, okay, they're shoring up the offensive line. And, you know, I just wanted to yell back, like, he was on the team last year.
Yeah.
Like, this was not a makeover for the offensive line. They did change offensive line. He is a carryover from the offensive line. This doesn't improve their offensive line. It prevents it from getting worse, but it doesn't improve their offensive line. Suddenly him being the highest paid player doesn't make him a better player than what he was. He's still the guy that got beat up in the Super Bowl by the Eagles. Even though he had a good year, he didn't have a good day against
the Eagles.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what I was saying, Soren. I mean, it's like you wonder if they had beaten the Eagles, would he be here on that contract? That'd be a different conversation, right?
Yeah, it might have been. I think you're right. I mean, you know, one game, like we talked about, is one of our major topics here during the offseason was, you know, how much should that Super Bowl change your opinion? Yeah. And whether you like it or not, it does count more than one game, not just as the championship, but it's like, okay, that's who we're going to measure ourselves against. And we came up really lacking. And I think you got to ask yourself, do we just have a bad day and they had a great day? Is that the difference here? Or are we really that far behind those guys? And I get saying, well, we don't want to fall further behind at this position. And I think it still comes down to, like, and we'll talk about left tackle and Josh Simmons here in a minute, but, you know, getting worse at guard, when you knew that you had a choice, we can only pay one of the two. And which one figures to be better over the next 5 years? Is it Joe Thuney or is it Trey Smith? And they're betting on Trey Smith. That's what they did. Now, Joe Thuney would have been cheaper. Would have been more injury prone in all likelihood, but he would have been cheaper. And this is the decision they made. And I just think that, you know, there isn't always, you know, a Hollywood ending, right? Because there wasn't ready-made, well, we'll save our money there. Like, if Trent Williams was a free agent and he grew up in, you know, Lee Summit, Missouri, like, they would have created a war chest. They would have gone after, you know, and he were 27 years old, right? I'm not talking about, you know, Trent Williams now at this age, but he were 27 years old and they thought they could go get the tackle. They would have done that, but there wasn't the tackle that they wanted. So, I mean, I think this is where, you know, being a GM, you're faced with hard choices. And, you know, this is a big investment. I have you heard a guy that everyone agrees he's good, very good, right? But there are some metrics and some people that will tell you he's the best guard. He ranks 6th in this top 10 of interior players. Now, I also think as soon as a guy gets paid, they jump up in these lists. They're like, oh, well, you know, it's almost like, you know, Roy Williams recruiting a guy. Oh, he's number 150. Oh, what? Carolina's looking at him? Oh, he's number 60. Like, he jumps 90. Roy knows what he's doing.
Ochai Agbaji was unranked. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then he oh, wait a minute. Bill Self thinks he can play? Well, now we got him at 120, right? Yeah. Like, so I do think there's an element of when you get paid that does influence all the other GMs. Like, well, they think he's worth that much. He must be pretty good.
I agree.
But I do think there's kind of a wide range of what is he.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because he's sorry, Jeff. Just real quick, I think it's because you grade him differently as a run blocker versus a pass protector. I think that he's different in those categories.
Yeah, and there's also the question of, do guards, depending on your offense, make that big a difference in what you're trying to accomplish? Like, I think, if you're trying to be the Baltimore Ravens, your guards matter more. And they, by the way, they cycle through them too over there. And so that's the thing I wonder is just, again, factoring in the Super Bowl loss to Philadelphia, how much is this is a overreaction as it was in 2020 of like, let's make sure we're taking care of 15 and getting back to what we want to do. And it's just, the guy was a 6th-round pick. You imagine you probably could have found another guy down the road who could play as well as he played and be a surprise for you. They draft pretty well. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying that teams have to make these decisions all the time. And like you said, there's risk involved in this. It's not as simple as, hey, this is a great contract for a player we love.
Yeah, I would offer the addendum on the 6th-round pick thing that, the lung issues.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, well, Jared Allen was a 4th-round pick. Yeah, because they had questions about him, being a wild man in college. I mean, he was the Buck Buchanan. He was the best player in 1AA. When he came out, sort of to last that long. I don't think he would have lasted that long if he hadn't been kind of a wild child in his youth that was there. So I do think that's true. But they get him. Quarterback's happy. Now we'll see how they manage the cap with it. And we'll see also what this means for Josh Simmons. You were up there. They're not in pads, Sam, but people liked what they saw and how he's moving. He is doing all the work that everybody else is. Where should the confidence meter, maybe not the optimism meter yet. Optimism meter can go off the charts, but the confidence meter should be where on Josh Simmons right now?
Well, I mean, you said that the quarterback's happy. This is going to determine whether or not the quarterback's happy. Like, what is Josh Simmons? Because I think it's a great sign. I mean, he lined up with the ones in the first rep and took all the first team reps today on the opening day of training camp. Like, the number one question that most teams had about Josh Simmons was not his ability, it was his availability. We're already seeing these ahead of schedule with his availability. Now, I will put an asterisk on that and say that part of the concern with this type of injury is you can suffer potential future injuries down the line that are related but not identical to the injury you've already sustained. So, like, that's always going to be looming over Josh Simmons. But to me, today is when the question turns to his ability. And that has to be given just as much scrutiny and evaluation as you did the health aspect to it, because unlike a year ago with this Kingsley Sumatia situation, you have a plan B on your roster. You signed Jalen Moore in case you needed him. It's not turning to Wanye Morris when Kingsley Sumatia doesn't work out. Now it's time for you to honestly scrutinize and evaluate whether or not Josh Simmons can do the job, not just no longer whether or not he's healthy.
Yeah, where should the confidence meter be now? Anywhere, Jeff, or are we still just playing in the sandbox?
Oh, I think it's a good sign. Like Sam mentioned, he's out there. But I mentioned this on the morning show on 810 today, which was that, to me, there's phases to this. There's levels to it. The first is, him being out there for training camp. I think now it's like, where's he going to be at in week 3, week 4 of camp? Like, how is his knee reacting to that? Yeah. How's he going to look when he gets pads on? I'm tired of people talking about this guy running around in shorts. Like, I want to see him with pads on, hitting people in that element, because that's how you really evaluate these guys. And then it's going to be the preseason, and then it's going to be week 1 when he's going to see Khalil Mack and whatever else the Chargers throw at him. And so for that, I'm going to really have patience with it. And I think that's hard to do in today's world, and everybody wants to celebrate guys before they've ever done anything. And I feel as if we've turned, not us, but I think there's a sentiment out there that the Chiefs' only problem last year, the only reason they didn't win a championship, was left tackle. They didn't have any other questions besides that. And that this guy is the answer to that. And if he doesn't play well, doesn't come out of the gates kicking ass, that to me is not fair to him. Because he is coming off a major injury and he's going to have his ups and downs. People need to be ready for that. But the way he's being talked about, I rarely hear people say, you know what, Let's see how it goes. I think Andy's starting to do that now. I think Andy's toned back some of the rhetoric from what I've seen from the press conference. Sam would know this better than I would, but
he did. We saw a different tone with him today. I thought than the past.
Yeah. And so to me, that's good because I think he's able to recognize let's not get the hype train out of control and have what happened last year with Karlaftis Mathieu.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would also tell you that, and I can't underscore this enough. Andy Heck, this offensive line needs to be good. We saw Andy Reid go too long with his defensive coordinator before he finally made a change. 2017 was a disaster defensively. So was 2018, and maybe kept them from winning a championship because he wouldn't pull the plug on his defensive coordinator. And by the way, Steve Spagnuolo was available that year. Steve Spagnuolo spent a year out. So, I mean, if you make a big enough offer, you could have, I would think, coaxed Steve Spagnuolo to not take his year off. Maybe not. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the only reason Bob Sutton lasted. But we're starting to get to where when you have a first-round draft pick at left tackle, a second-round draft pick at left guard, the highest paid center, the highest paid guard, and then a $28 million cap hit on your right tackle, you better be able to protect somebody's ass.
Yeah.
Like there is no excuse. I mean, I can't stress enough. Whoever pounded the table for Karlaftis Mathieu in the draft needs to be talked to. Whatever the problem ends up being, if they have that kind of problem on the offensive line, it can't go without consequences this year. I mean, I think somebody is going to have to pay a price if they don't play better. If they're not allowed.
You want some butts, like
right. I want some butts. That's exactly. I don't care whose butt, but somebody's butt is paying.
It's a fire the third base coach situation.
Somebody's gonna, Andy was the one who beat on the table. It's like we got to get rid of that third base coach. He's close right there. Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll get into Rashee Rice and his case right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about Rashee Rice. Jeff, first of all, you said all along that you thought jail time would be involved in this, that you talked with people with law enforcement. 30 days of jail time is part of this equation. He can serve it at any time within the 5 years, so it shouldn't be prohibitive of him playing whenever he is eligible to play. And the vibe I got from some people, I said, how long should this take from the league now that we've got the criminal side done? And they thought a week, maybe 2, right? That means we should any day now be hearing about Rashee Rice. Like, is that, well, first of all, when do you think we are going to hear something? And, what do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think it would be soon. I mean, they've had enough time to look at the video to understand the ramifications. They followed the case. They've had their investigators involved. He's been very compliant and taking responsibility for this. There's no question about, are they missing anything? I've always thought it's going to be 6 to 8, and I still think that. I don't think that for any type of situation like this where you have a high-profile case, when his plea was announced and his penalty was announced, it was on ABC News Tonight. It was on Good Morning America. It was all over the place. And somebody talked about, what about Jordan Addison and his DUI? Well, he went on Good Morning America. He went on America Tonight. He didn't have video.
Yeah, the video. I can't stress enough. I think that's such a great point. The video is, it's about how bad you make the league look. And I know they don't. What you didn't have anything to do with whether there is or isn't video. The fact there is makes it worse.
Yeah.
100%.
Him walking away. So I think it's 6 to 8. I think 6 is where it lands, but I'd be surprised if it was 4, and I'd be surprised if it was 8. But I think 6 is at least sends a message, because anything you do as a league, you are either defending him or you are admonishing him, and so you want to make sure you're on the admonishment side. You want to make sure you were hitting him over the head.
I'll throw some love to our friends at Northland Injury Law as well, as we spoke with them about this case more than a year ago, and they said they expected it to wrap up sometime late summer of this year. And it did come to it. Didn't look like it was gonna because of the problems with the Dallas courts, but it did end up coming in right at the time that the guys at Northland Injury Law said this is about how long it'll take to run its course. So much love to our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's number one law firm when it comes to personal injury. Text HURT right now to 22222. We'll give some love to our friends up at Northland Injury Law. But Sam, are you expecting what for the suspension?
I'm expecting less than what Jeff said, but I totally agree with his sentiment of why he should be at 6 to 8. Like, first of all, it's difficult to predict these things, not only because the inconsistency from situation to situation, but because really, let's face it, you're trying to get in the head of like a one-person jury, judge, and executioner in this situation, and that's difficult. But if I'm that person, it is 6 to 8 games. But I think I said this on this podcast, back at like around the combine time, that I was hearing there was going to be the possibility of less than that. And I still think that, it winds up being closer to the 4-game neighborhood. And that's because, I've mentioned this as well. Like, what most people don't realize about these suspensions is their settlements with the NFLPA and the player involved, and then the NFL itself. And we could give you 8, we could give you 6. How's 4 sounding? And I think that's what you're going to see is somewhere closer to that neighborhood.
Go a little deeper on that, on how it works.
Well, there's you can get suspended and appeal your suspension, of course. The NFL doesn't have any interest in having these things appealed and these things, dragging out even longer. And so, when we hear the player suspension is typically not when the player hears his suspension. Now, there are exceptions. Frank Clark did not know what his suspension was going to be a couple years ago. He learned when the rest of us learned, or right before. But there's other guys who have been suspended for the Chiefs, particularly in off-season situations where the league, when I say situations, I mean the timing of when the suspension is handed down. If you remember Frank Clark, it came during a bye week during the middle of the year when he got suspended. When they're offered a little bit of time, often there is a conversation with the player that, if there's a negotiation, if there's a settlement on this, there's not going to be an appeal, and that ends it. And therefore, we know for sure what your suspension is going to be. You can't appeal it, and that happens. That absolutely happens. It's happened with Chiefs players. It's happened recently with some other Chiefs players. So I think you could see that sort of situation, given what Jeff said is accurate. Like, we have seen a cooperative Rashee Rice in terms of the civil case or the criminal case here. He pled guilty to it. And I think you could see a guilty plea of some sort in this as well.
Yeah, and is that what you expect, Jeff? I mean, I think that's a good point, that there won't be a suspension. He's been playing ball with everybody, and it looks like they're saying, look, you need to get this.
Well, won't be an appeal. Sorry to interrupt. It won't be an appeal.
Yeah.
Won't be an appeal. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes. What did I say?
Suspension.
So, there'll be a suspension, but there won't be an appeal. Thank you for correcting me. There won't be an appeal because him and his people, they want to get this in the rearview mirror, start rebuilding his reputation and image, because he's not that far. He's a 2nd-round pick. He's not that far. This will be the end of his 3rd year at the end of this year. So he's going to have like 1 year.
Yeah.
And it would be a time that, they'd be talking extension. If they loved you, that's going to be a tough sell. Like, so getting this to go away is what they're looking for.
Yeah. And unfortunately for him, this thing didn't happen in a vacuum. I think recently Henry Ruggs he just got out of jail or was speaking to somebody, the family that had killed him at some event, who he had killed, the woman who he had killed their family. And he killed somebody in a similar situation where he was drag racing in Vegas and ran into somebody and killed him. And trust me, when this penalty comes down, that's going to be discussed as part of the conversation. It's not going to be Rashee Rice feels, is compliant and responsible and, paid off the people and did what he's supposed to do. They're going to be like, does the NFL have a drag racing problem? And what are they doing about it? And that's part of how the league looks at stuff. Sam's right. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, but usually it's with much, much lower profile situations. This is a situation that everybody has seen and has an opinion about.
Sam, the comments of Patrick Mahomes today are like, hey, it's business as usual as far as how we're going to practice with them. Is that the right way to do it, though? Should they be, practicing another way, him less, more time, more reps for Royals or whoever's going to get the more snaps for it? Are they handling it right if they are? And do we believe what Patrick Mahomes is saying?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the second part of your question first. Yes, I mean, today at practice, Rashee Rice got as many snaps as anyone did with the first team and also got more targets than anybody did with the Patrick Mahomes group. Extremely short practice, day one, not pads yet, but I do believe that that's going to be indicative of the way they use them in training camp. Should they? I think absolutely. I think they should practice them as normal for two reasons. One, this is a team that should be practicing for having its best team on February 5th, not September 5th in Brazil. And number two, he's coming off of an injury, a serious injury. And I think you've got to get him healthy. And that requires getting him a lot of snaps. Jeff mentioned how is Josh Simmons going to respond once he's had back-to-back practices. You need to see that with Rashee Rice too. And the only way you're going to see it is if he's actually a full go out there.
Yeah. You agree that's the way to do it, Jeff? Because
you don't know when the suspension is going to come down. I mean, obviously, it's different when you know the timing of it and how. And I'm sure that will affect how they treat his reps and who gets to run with the first team at that point.
Do you think that? Do you think that should then, Jeff? Like, let's say that he gets suspended tomorrow. Would you cut back his reps?
Yeah, I think you want to know who's going to be playing in his spot, right? I mean,
I still wouldn't. I don't know, because I think at some point you got to figure out who's going to be out here day one. I'm not saying completely take him off the field, but I'm saying that you're going to have to start moving guys into that spot, and he's not going to be 100% first team reps.
But do they seem? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said just shouldn't be 100% first team reps.
But I mean, when we watched them, I mean, like either they can't see anything in camp, or I mean, like Kingsley Suamataia, put him out there left tackle. What could go wrong? Sky Moore, 2 years. You got to get into the regular season and touch the stove 3 times. Quote our buddy Eric Eager with a couple of his things, like, how many times will Andy have to touch the stove? Yeah. Like, we've seen them. They have been, have had some problems with Kadarius Toney. Let's keep running him out there. And maybe that's just, we've also heard Mitchell Schwartz say on this podcast, part of their strength as a coaching staff is that they just always love their guys. They always preach confidence. They're always working with you. They never give up on you. So in ways, maybe it's their strength and their weakness, at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough start to the year, and they're resilient. Yeah. They're champions. They can come back. And 2 years ago, they proved that they can be 11-6 and still win a Super Bowl. I totally agree with Sam's point about being your best in February, but I don't think it can hurt. I mean, do we know what Rashee Rice is right now after he's played, 3 games? Is that enough?
Well, especially coming off an injury, you don't know what he is yet. That's why I think he should play. I mean, just to give people a concept of how this typically works as far as reps, there's really usually 3 wide receivers on a lot of, that's particularly the pre-padded practices are more of a passing drill, right? Because the lines aren't really going live. So really, you've got 3 guys in on the first play, and then you cycle in 3 guys in, and you're cycling those 6 really with the first team. Occasionally, somebody else will get a first team rep. So today you saw, 1, 4, and 5 out there with the first team. So that's Worthy, Rice, and Hollywood Brown. And then the other guys cycling in are Jalen Royals, Juju Smith-Schuster, and so far, Tyquan Thornton is getting some first team reps. Those 5, I think, is enough to get, whatever 5. And, it's day one. We're 45 days from them traveling to Brazil. Whoever you settle on, You guys know I don't think you need 7 wide receivers. If you've got 5 guys getting first team reps that aren't Rashee Rice and he can still get them, I'm still getting Rashee Rice as first team reps for that reason.
Yeah. Well, and also that's a good point because you start thinking about what happens when he is suspended, and now what happens if Juju Smith-Schuster goes down, which happened last year, and Hollywood goes down. It happened last year. All of a sudden, that receiving core, hey, can we go find our next DeAndre Hopkins? Because I know 7's not a great number for you, Sam, but I also feel like they're a lot thinner at that spot than they were before. There's a lot more variables in play than just, everybody's back on the field together. Like, this could go bad in a hurry.
Yeah. What does it do for his contract? Like, what do you think? What's your crystal ball tell you, Sam, on what he's going to get and when he's going to get it and who he's going to get it from?
I think it just delays it. I don't know that it ends up affecting it in the end. We saw Tyreek Hill get 2 massive paydays. And for whatever you think of Rashee Rice, and all of us have, denounced the events there, Tyreek Hill had a much worse background than Rashee Rice did and still got paid as the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Like, Rashee Rice will get paid if he produces like he did at the start of last year or even the end of his rookie year. And I think he's on that track. I think that's the player that he's going to be whenever he comes back, even if it takes him, getting a couple games under his belt first because he hasn't played in so long. So I think mostly what it does is it just delays when it comes.
Rice will not re-sign here.
I wouldn't be caps lock confident in it.
Yeah. That guy stole my line. I don't think he's going to be here after year 4. I think he's going to be gone. I think that he's going to.
Why? Sam is right. They have shown a stomach for toleration. I mean, Frank Clark, they've brought in guys that had,
before,
guys
yes,
they'll cut and walk away from, but they've had a number of different guys in here that, came in with a questionable background. And then when they get burnt, then when they do something wrong here, they're out.
Not Willie Gay. Willie Gay had a suspension for DV incident.
He didn't get another contract though.
Yeah.
So this, consider.
Well, what I'm saying, I'm not saying they won't offer him a contract. I'm saying I don't know if he'll take it. I think that just as we talked about with Trent McDuffie, I mean, the market for receivers has exploded. And I'm sure if Rashee Rice has, after this year, if his 4th year is pretty strong and they're still sitting out there trying to figure out what to do with McDuffie and he's not in a position to be franchised, I think he's walking out the door. I think the money he's lost in this is going to be appealing to make as much money as he can moving forward. And 2, what that video shows me, he ain't the most mature guy in the world. So the ability of George Karlaftis to sit here and say, yeah, it's good to be in Kansas City and I like the deal I'm getting here and this is going to be good for them and good for the team. I don't see Rashee Rice having that same sensibility in that situation. I think he's totally going to be thinking about, look at what Jamar Chase got. Look what T. Higgins got paid. Forget about Jamar Chase. If I can get close to that, I'll take it.
Let me ask you a question. Correct me here if I'm wrong. Did Tyreek Hill sign his second contract with the Chiefs? Did he sign that the same offseason that there was the tape and everything that was out there? Was that late? And
it was end of his
got cleared and they turned right around and signed him.
Yeah. That was the end of his end of his rookie year, right, when that happened?
Because
it came out.
And this year he's going to play a partial year. We all agree there's going to be some kind of suspension. So whatever his numbers are, they're not going to be huge. I would suspect that the Chiefs will try to get it done after this year. I don't know that they want to turn around and hand him a contract extension before the season starts.
But what would you pay him, though? That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not. Well, you think he would take a discount?
I think your point is very valid. Can you give him enough that he wants to stay? And, if you get him, I think the fact that he's lost a lot of money may make him want that signing bonus, to try to get right and get whole. You just don't know about the individual. I think they will try at the end of this year. And if he doesn't sign at the end of this year, then I think he walks.
I mean, they just went through this with Trey Smith, right? So, and Nick Bolton, right? Both those guys had opportunities to sign before they got to the end of their contracts. I think it's what?
I know Trey Smith did. Did they try Nick?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they had conversation. I'm just saying that they were in that situation. And so I hear what you're saying, but you can take out loans. Your agent will give you a loan or whatever against what you're going to earn. I just think the market for him as a receiver will be very strong. And I just don't think what do you think the number would be for the Chiefs to get him to sign a deal to stay here per year?
I think he's going to have to be about 5th in AAV.
Yeah.
What is tops right now? I forget because you haven't.
Well, Chase is up to what, like 36?
I think it's like 29. Tops, right? Yeah, 29 is.
No, I think it's
Jalen Waddle territory, right? 29 million a year.
I think
Ayuk?
that. I mean, didn't Jamar got almost
he got
40,
the highest,
right?
like almost 40.
Jamar's at 40, Jefferson 35, CeeDee Lamb 34, DK 33, Garrett Wilson just signed for 32 and a half.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you're talking low 30s if you're trying to get him.
Yeah, maybe 30.
Early.
Yeah.
Like if you try to get him early,
yeah.
30. That would be Brandon Ayuk money.
Yeah, T. Higgins is 29.
No, I mean, how good is he?
That's the question.
Yeah, and that's another reason why this is delayed too, right? Is because you don't have a ton of games with Rashee Rice, but there's always this reaction when a wide receiver comes to Kansas City. Oh, look out, he's going to play with Patrick Mahomes now. Just wait until he gets to play with Patrick Mahomes, as if you expect this massive boost in numbers. With Rashee Rice, there's more reality to that than there is with other wide receivers because they throw short. Yeah. And his strength is after the catch. Just get the ball in his hands and let him work. And so I think he fits this offense more than you hear that these other guys coming in would fit.
Yeah. I think he fits the offense they've had to be of late. I think they aspire to more. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if they can be more.
Well, that also begs the question of, are they going to spend that money on Xavier Worthy, who's coming up right after him, right? Because you're not going to pay both those guys big wide receiver money.
Let's just play this game. Rashee Rice or this wide receiver, right? Like, which one would you take? Jamar Chase.
Oh, are you asking that question seriously?
we could skip.
The early ones are the quick ones.
Okay. All right. Okay. Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb. DK Metcalf. I'm going down the AAV list.
Well, I'd rather have DK here since McCole Harbin showed up, so I'll stick with DK.
I'd rather have Rashee Rice than DK Metcalf.
Okay. Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh, I'm on St. Brown.
Yeah, St. Brown.
Tyreek Hill.
At this age, I'd rather have Rashee Rice.
Okay. Brandon Ayuk.
Well, he's
Rice.
Hurt. Yeah.
Who?
He's hurt. He's come out. Well, I guess
he's hurt, but when he was, he signed the contract when he wasn't. So
I would take Ayuk. I think Ayuk's better.
I'd take Rashee Rice. Ayuk's 27, right?
Okay. He is 26 now. Or I don't know, is this date age at signing? He was 26 when he signed, so he's 27 now. You're correct. T. Higgins.
I take T. Well, he's hurt a lot. Well, I guess Rice is hurt. T. Higgins is hurt too much for me. I think they're about the same.
Okay.
I'd say probably Rice, but very, very close.
Jalen Waddle.
Rice.
I'd take Waddle. He's more explosive.
I want to get to where we reach the point where Jeff is on board with him. All right, DJ Moore.
Rice. DJ Moore's old.
Is he? How old is he?
When he signed the deal we're talking about, he was 27.
What is he, 28, 29 now?
He is 28.
He's 28.
Yeah, I'll take Rice.
Okay, Devonta Smith, Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley.
Rice over those guys.
Well, we're in where Jeff finally came around, we're in the 24, 25 range.
Yeah.
Right? Some of them a year old, though. And where Sam started having some questions was up around 30.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 25 and 30 is the number, would be my guess.
Yeah. But I think the one thing we all agree on is there's uncertainty here. We've only seen him play 20 games. And so we don't have the evidence that you should have when you're talking about signing a guy coming off of his rookie deal, which is another reason why I think the real answer is this should be delayed a year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right, boy, we'll give Jeff Kristian Fulton's already on the pup list.
Oh man, who would have seen that coming, huh? You're hurt already. Day one. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I predicted that much. So he was in our over under when any games played or cornerback, whatever we put out there. I think he's going to be hurt a lot. He gets hurt a lot. So I'm not surprised.
What is it? What do you think, Sam? The fact that they hadn't even played and he's already hurt.
I think the concern. I think there should be a lot of concern, particularly because Andy Reid won't tell you timelines, but he'll drop some hints. And if you've been around enough Andy Reid press conferences, you can gather some information. And one of them was, when I asked how long those guys will be out, talking about Taylor and Fulton, he said, I think Taylor will come back before Fulton. Okay, well, there's one barometer that we have then, which is this isn't like a week-long absence. And I remember that there was mocking of Kadarius Toney when he got hurt on the first snap at training camp. That's one more than we've seen Kristian Fulton out there for the Chiefs so far. So
$20 million, see. Right? That's what he signed for. $20 million, a couple of years.
Yeah,
2 years. 2 years, 20 million.
2 years, not 20 per. Yeah, but
yeah, not 10 million per. All right, and let's close with Tyrann Mathieu retiring. Sam, you spent a lot of time talking to Tyrann Mathieu in the locker room. What's your reaction to him walking all the way up to training camp and being like, not feeling it?
It stunned me. I mean, he actually participated in the summer stuff, which is the stuff that players hate.
Yeah.
So I hope that all is well there. I hope that there's not, something that precipitated that retirement, whether it's an injury or, a personal issue or something. But I really am adamant that Tyrann Mathieu should be in the Chiefs Ring of Honor, even though it's only a 3-year stint. And it caused me after he and I was up in St. Joe when that news broke, and it caused me to sort of go back and look at those 3 years. And first of all, I absolutely believe he changed the culture of the defense. Like, championship swagger came before they actually won a championship, and that was because of Tyrann Mathieu. But the stats that really stand out with him is 13 interceptions in 3 years. 13 interceptions in 3 years, like 6 in one season. He had more interceptions in one season than Trent McDuffie's had in his career. Double than Trent McDuffie's had in his career. 4 fumble recoveries. So 17 turnovers in 3 years. And, there's often this game of like, hey, who in their prime would you put on the Chiefs right now? I think commonly it's like, hey, Jamal Charles would look incredible in this offense. But Tyrann Mathieu would look pretty good on this team right now, a team that's got a good defense that can't cause a lot of turnovers. And the Chiefs got his prime. They got his best 3 years.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Have you ever? Can we think of a player that participated in those things and then?
Mike Williams, right? Did Mike Williams actually participate for the Chargers?
Because he was there. I think he was there during the OTA part of it. Yeah, before he retired. I
almost wonder if Mike Williams was cut. Like, it's like, dude, we're watching you, and you ain't got it.
Oh.
I agree, but didn't Tyrann just sign like during last year maybe, or he signed an extension? Or
I think you're right. I think he did some kind of new deal, but
in March. I guess it was in March he reworked his deal, so he had just. Yeah, it was in March. I mean, in March he signed a deal, a 2-year deal too.
Yeah, I thought Tyrann 33, right? 33 and 12 years in, new coach.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that again?
Well, that's a great point, Jeff, because the Saints are barreling towards a number 1 pick. But I just thought that when Tyrann Mathieu was here, he was the guy who would play like Charles Woodson until he was 38 or something. Because I think he's smart enough of a football player that he could have been able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like his career is a lot of what could have been because of the injuries and ended up in New Orleans. Like, he just never saw. I mean, I think if he had played 12 years the way he played here, he'd be a Hall of Famer. But he didn't have the opportunity in Arizona to do that, and he was out in the wilderness on a bad team the last few years. So I think he won't be the same credit for what he did in this league for what he quite deserves.
Would have been nice to see him finish playing on a team, playing games that mattered, right? That would have been nice. But, yeah, I agree with Sam. He did change the culture here and was a huge part of getting that team going on the defensive side of the ball. Listen, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Hit that like button, the love button, the subscribe button. Tell your friends about it and support our great sponsors. Great sponsors like GAN Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater KC area. Been fixing parking lots, all things, one contractor, all things parking lots in Kansas City since 1994. Let them educate you about the most cost-effective way solve your parking lot problems. Give them a call today at 816-484-3338 or just go online to ganasphalt.com. That's ganasphalt.com. We mentioned our friends at Northland Injury Law, serving Kansas City for more than 40 years, voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. 5 stars, Google 5-star rated, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. If you have a case, text HURT to 2222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.